Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I am from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about the crime of high treason. Now, much has been made about a few pieces of video that show police pulling back barricades and allowing the insurrectionists, to come inside and gain access through at least one of the entry points into the building. And since then, the chief of the Capitol Police and all four sitting members of the Capitol Police Board have all resigned. Essentially, those are the people who are the intermediaries and the go-betweens of the Capitol Police Force rank and file and Congress, to whom they are actually answerable to. So let's take a look real quick at what treason actually is, and then some of the updated information that's coming in to determine if there might have actually been treason afoot at the insurrection. Treason is a unique offense in our constitutional order, the only crime expressly defined by the Constitution and applying only to Americans who betrayed the allegiance they are presumed to owe the United States. While the Constitution's framers shared the centuries-old view that all citizens owed a duty of loyalty to their home nation, they included the treason clause not so much to underscore the seriousness of such a betrayal, but to guard against the historic use of treason prosecutions by repressive governments to silence otherwise legitimate political opposition. The Constitution specifically defines what constitutes treason against the United States and, importantly, limits the offense of treason to only two types of conduct. One, levying war against the United States as an American citizen, or two, adhering to the enemies of the United States, giving them aid and comfort. So, the question becomes, was there anybody in government who provided aid and comfort to the insurrectionists in their planning or during the actual commission of said insurrection? Drew Griffin of CNN is reporting that Capitol insurrectionist Stop the Steal organizer Ali Alexander said he was getting help from members of Congress: Paul Gosar, Andy Biggs, and Mo Brooks. Now, obviously, this is just a single assertion being made by a single person, and somebody whose testimony down the road is surely going to make the difference between convictions or no convictions. And while organizing a political rally isn't treasonous, if you help to organize an invasion of the U.S. Capitol building, that might be treason. As he fired up a crowd of Trump supporters gathered at Arizona State Capitol last month, Representative Paul Gosar falsely assured them that the election results could still be overturned. Quote, "Once we conquer the Hill," the six-term Republican declared to a wave of cheers, "Donald Trump is returned to being the president." 2.5 weeks later, Gosar was repeating baseless claims about stolen ballots and rigged voting machines in his speech to Congress when he found himself interrupted by chaos on the House floor. Within minutes, lawmakers were being evacuated out of the chambers as rioters advanced through the heart of American democracy, spurred by the same rhetoric Gosar and some of his fellow Republicans had espoused. The first part of Gosar's prediction, at least, had come true. Capitol Hill had been conquered. Yeah, for a solid 3-4 hours on that day, the U.S. government was not in control of the U.S. Capitol building. An invading force took it over. And again, the question as to whether or not there is treason afoot is solely going to lie in whether or not those people had help on the inside. Because if they did, those people can very well be tried for high treason. The insurrection last week that left 5 people dead, including a Capitol police officer, has spurred a new move to impeach President Donald Trump and a wave of criticism for the most prominent senators who voted to block President-elect Joe Biden's victory. But Gosar and several other of his GOP colleagues in the House are also facing new scrutiny for their incendiary language in the hours, days, and weeks before the siege. One of the top organizers of the movement that aimed to overturn the election results has claimed that he worked closely with Republican congressmen. Ali Alexander, leader of Stop the Steal group, said in several Periscope live stream videos last month that he planned the rally that preceded the riot in conjunction with Gosar and 2 other reps, Mo Brooks and Andy Biggs. Quote, "We're the 4 guys who came up with the January 6th event," Alexander said. "It was to build momentum and pressure, and then on the day, change hearts and minds of congresspeople who weren't yet decided or saw everyone outside and said, 'I can't be on the other side of that mob.'" So to confirm, the organizer of the Stop the Steal event plan to bring an angry mob to convince congressional reps to vote the other way. Somehow, I feel that that is not supposed to be a part of our vaunted democratic process, which is supposedly the envy of the free world. Brooks, a staunch conservative and one of Trump's closest congressional allies, was one of the first speakers at the National Mall rally that preceded the riot, and his fiery language helped set the tone for what came next. Quote, "Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass. Our ancestors sacrificed their blood, their sweat, their tears, their fortunes, and sometimes their lives. Are you willing to do the same? Yes. Are you willing to sacrifice your blood and your life for what we're about to do over in the Capitol building?" Yes, this definitely sounds like somebody spurring on an insurrection. As to whether or not it's treasonous, well, I think a few more dominoes are going to have to fall into place first. Brooks was the first member of Congress to say publicly that he would object to the certification of the electoral votes for Biden. The day before the January 6th rally, he tweeted that Trump had, quote, asked him personally to speak and tell American people about the election system weaknesses that socialist Democrats exploited to steal this election. Again, no proof, just President Trump saying, tell them I was robbed. Okay, just go out there and tell them that would be great. I was robbed. So I think it's safe to say that this collection of reps did work with Ollie, did help organize the Stop the Steal rallies, did help to bring tons of people to the Capitol building for when the insurrection happened. But we're still looking for something that ties congressional reps to the actual insurrection and not just the rally. Rep. Mickey Sherrill says Congress members gave reconnaissance tours the day before the Capitol raid. Whoa, well, now, that would be a hell of a lot closer to treason. Rep. Mickey Sherrill, during a live webcast Tuesday evening, said she witnessed some members of Congress leading people through the Capitol on January 5th in what she termed, quote, a reconnaissance for the next day when insurrectionists took part in a deadly siege on the legislative branch. We can't have a democracy if members of Congress are actively helping the president overturn the election results. Not only do I intend to see that the president is removed and never runs for office again and doesn't have access to classified material, I also intend to see that those members of Congress who abetted him, those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, those members of Congress that incited this violent crowd, those members of Congress that attempted to help our president undermine our democracy. I'm going to see that they are held accountable, and if necessary, ensure that they don't serve in Congress. Now that is a very serious accusation, stating that seated members of Congress were giving people reconnaissance tours through the House the day before the insurrection so that they knew where to go. Again, if that is true, then people did indeed commit high treason. This is the Boston Globe on a story about their congressional rep, Ayanna Pressley, who had a rather unique story to tell about her experience during the insurrection. As people rushed out of other buildings on the Capitol grounds, staffers in Pressley's office barricaded the entrance with furniture and water jugs that had piled up during the pandemic. Groh pulled out gas masks and looked for the special panic buttons in the office. Quote, every panic button in my office had been torn out. The whole unit, she said, though they could come up with no rationale as to why. She had used them before and hadn't switched offices since then. As they were escorted to several different secure locations, Groh, Pressley, and her husband tried to remain calm and vigilant, not only of rioters, but of officers they did not know or trust. Now, this is not only a much more pointed accusation, but it is one in which the evidence is very easy to ascertain the veracity thereof. I can't imagine that Ayanna Pressley or her core staffers would have any reason to lie about the panic button being removed from their office if they had used it previously. And again, every single office of every single congressional rep has a panic button underneath the desk of the receptionist, as well as two in the back office of the actual representative. Another congressional rep who's facing a lot of scrutiny as to whether or not they were involved in any type of a treason alongside the insurrection is Congressional Rep. Boebert from Colorado. Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert on Monday responded to calls for her resignation by describing Democrats as hypocrites and naming celebrities and politicians she blames for inciting violence. What? So somebody said, you did insurrection, you should resign. And her answer was, but what about the Democrats and the Hollywood elites? But you know that's not a defense, right? That's whataboutism. It's the province of the small-minded, and in no way can justify or minimize any actions that you may have taken. Quote, we should take Democrats at their word when they say never let a crisis go to waste. Their hypocrisy is on full display with talks of impeachment, censure, and other ways to punish Republicans for false accusations of inciting the type of violence they have so frequently and transparently supported in the past. Ah, she's going with whoever smelt it dealt it. A rather mature position to take on the topic of insurrection. Well, she was not the only lawmaker to tweet during Wednesday's failed insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Critics say that Boebert helped to reveal the location of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. According to reporting from The Hill, those critics include Boebert's Republican colleagues in the House. This is a clip of some of Boebert's live tweeting from the event when she was instructing people as to where Nancy Pelosi was, because, of course, there's literally no other reason for a junior congressional rep to be live tweeting the specific location of Nancy Pelosi during an insurrection. So apparently she was trying to communicate with somebody. They accused me of live tweeting the speaker's presence after she'd been safely removed from the Capitol, as if I was revealing some big secret, when it was a fact that this removal was also being broadcast on TV. Really? Were you watching TV at the time when you were in lockdown? Were you just casually watching TV? You weren't fleeing with other congressional reps who were being led out by armed guards, literally 70 feet away from an angry mob that brought nooses to hang Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi? Is that what you're going with? You're not helping your cause here. Like, one bit. Boebert also tweeted, today is 1776, just hours before the attack. Wow, she seems really nice. Now, does that mean she helped at the insurrection? Not necessarily. However, it turns out the day before Boebert was live tweeting the location of Nancy Pelosi, this was Lauren Boebert on the 5th. It turns out that all those people with a circle around them that were on the Boebert tour were all members of armed insurrection who have been arrested so far. You can't miss them. They're the ones with the American flag t-shirts and the body armor that they wore to Congress the day before the insurrection for a sightseeing tour. And yes, while I know this is all visual and circumstantial, if this is the kind of stuff that we are able to ascertain from the outside looking in, I need you to really bend your brain and think about what kind of information the FBI is getting, sifting through the data and the phones of all the insurrectionists they arrested. Oh, wait, what's that? I started this off by talking about treason. I actually haven't shown anything that could be remotely related to treason because there is no solid connection between these tours, these words, and then the actions of the actual insurrectionists in DC. It looks like I have gone once again and saved the best for last. Buckle up, Buttercup, here it comes. This is some video of the insurrectionists in the House of Congress discussing the layout of the building and the map that they had already drawn when they were there the day before on a reconnaissance mission. Here it is, in their own words. And for the record, dumbasses, if you're going to commit some fucking insurrection, don't record it or live stream it.
What's the floor plan? What's the that door? There's a door to the right. That's a cop. Going down the stairs, back, looping around, door beneath us. That's what we're going to get over. Door's already open. We just need a plan. We need enough people. We need to push forward.
Okay.
Door right here. Not going that door. Downstairs, loop around.
Okay.
Downstairs.
Hey guys, I've been in the other room. Listen to me. In the other room on the other side of this door, right here where these feet are standing, there is a glass that if it's broken, you can drop down.
Where's my press? Story extension. Remember I told you?
What you saying? What you tell me? Tell me what you're doing. Just give me some narrative.
Look for yourself.
We need people.
God damn it!
They knew where specific offices were.
They're
They knew how to get through back entrances and through maintenance hallways to specific areas that they wanted to reach. And they had maps already drawn. So while we might not know everything yet, what we do know is that there was an insurrection. And it's looking more and more likely that that insurrection was aided by treason. And it's only going to take one lone patriot to sing like a canary and make the whole house of cards come tumbling down. Get ready, everybody. This one's going to get a hell of a lot worse before it gets any better. My name is James. I'm from the internet, and I'm out. Peace.